Quint's Quantitative Revolution. In the town of Verity, where the sun shone bright, lived a boy named Quint who loved everything right. He didn't like guesses, he didn't like maybe, he'd count every petal on a wild mountain daisy. To Quint, the world was a puzzle of facts, of logical steps and precise little acts. But one day he heard a phrase quite absurd. "You've stolen my heart." "Oh, what a weird word." "The heart," Quint insisted, "is a pump, don't you see? It doesn't store feelings for you or for me." He tapped on his chest where his pulse gave a thrum and decided the world was being quite dumb. He pulled out his notebooks, his pens, and his charts to fix all the talk about valves and heart parts. "From now on," he declared with a scholarly grin, "we'll speak of the brain and what's deep within." He drafted a list of the words we should use to make sure that science had nothing to lose. At dinner that evening, with noodles and cheese, his mother, Alara, said, "Love you with all my heart, please." Quint shook his head gently and patted her hand. "My oxytocin is surging, you must understand. It's a chemical bond, quite specific and neat, much more accurate than saying a pump is so sweet." Alara didn't blink, and she didn't just sigh. She looked at the sparkle in her young son's eye. "You're right, Quint," she said as she cleared off a tray. "My dopamine levels are peaking today." The next morning at the market, she told Axiom the grocer, "These apples bring my neurons a sense of great closure." At school the next morning, the teacher said, "Children, follow your hearts when you're drawing and building." Quint stood on his chair. "That's biologically wrong. The prefrontal cortex is where choices belong." He pointed to his forehead with a confident shout, while the rest of the class turned their heads all about. On the playground, his best friend named Soren was sad. "My heart is so heavy, it's making me mad." Quint offered a hug and a factual plea. "It's your limbic system feeling blue, can't you see? Your neurotransmitters are a bit out of whack, but don't worry, my friend. We'll get them on track." Miss Gable stood nearby and nodded her head. "I'll keep that in my brain, Soren," she softly said. Soren looked up, his eyes wide and clear, as the logic of science replaced every fear. "My amygdala's calming," he said with a grin, as the new way of speaking began to win. The revolution had spread through the streets and the halls. New scientific posters were hung on the walls. Even Mayor Celsus declared with a roar, "We shall use the old idioms nevermore." The town square was buzzing with logic and grace as limbic system replaced heart in every place. From the town of Verity to the cities afar, the words traveled fast, like a bright falling star. Quint sat with Alara as the news reached the door. The whole world was speaking with science once more. "I limbic system you, Mom," Quint said with a glow. "The facts make the wonder just continue to grow."
They used to say you're in my heart, but that's just an old piece of art. It's not some ancient static phrase. You light my reward pathways for days. You're not in my heart, you're in my head. It's all the dopamine you spread. You're in my limbic system, that's the truth. And all my oxytocin is for you. All my oxytocin is for you.